Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Listeners, before we start today's episode, we want to invite you to our upcoming meet and greet event. If you are in or near LaGrange, Georgia, we would love for you to join us. This fun morning will take place on September 27th from 9 to 11 a.m. For more details, please message us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast or drop us an email at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. Hope to see you there. Now let's get started. Listeners, today we're building on our last episode, which was all about helping in the kitchen. And this episode is all about helping you and ourselves with hospitality. No matter how many tips I get on hospitality, it still seems like a struggle sometimes, and I'm hoping to get new inspiration today, especially as we head into this fall and winter with all the seasonal celebrations. And I'm curious, Julie and Mindy, do you consider yourselves hospitable people? And if so, is it even okay to claim that?
I hope so.
I mean, is it okay to call yourself hospitable? Because I consider both of you hospitable people.
I was going to say Julie's definitely hospitable.
And so are you, Mindy.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, all of us are pretty hospitable. And I guess I would determine that by how much we open our home.
Yes, that's what I mean by hospitable. I mean, like, how willing are you to have people in your home? I feel like you guys are both always so willing to have people in your homes.
That is so sweet of you to say. I feel convicted already. I'm like, oh, I should open up my home more. That's how I feel when you say, are you hospitable? I'm like, not enough.
Okay, but you are hospitable, but you want to be even more hospitable.
But maybe I feel like, I should open the door and invite a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we always can be learning a new tip or trick or improving, but it would be like if someone said, do you consider yourself a kind person? Well, yes, but we could always all probably be kinder. You know what I'm saying?
And I think after the last 2 years, we've gotten out of practice. You know, like we might have been more hospitable prior to 2020. And so we're just getting back in gear.
You're so right.
Yeah, I do think that like anything, if you're not practicing hospitality, it's real easy to get out of the habit. And we're going to talk later in the episode about myths and hindrances to hospitality. And it's real easy to start believing those myths and falling for those hindrances. And even though you were hospitable before, if you haven't been doing it lately, you can start sliding back down the pole.
So true.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, that's what we kind of want to help people today and ourselves, like I said, with hospitality, because I know that as I look at the holidays and this fall, I do want, it's a very easy season to be hospitable, and I do want to be successful in that. So let's start out with something that is usually first and foremost on people's minds. What are you going to serve? So like, what's your go-to meal for when you have guests?
Well, I loved thinking about this question, and I didn't really come up with what I thought was a good answer until this morning. In general, I like to make things ahead of time because I don't like a kitchen full of dirty pots and pans when guests come over because they always want to be in the kitchen. And I like a one-pot meal. That's always nice. And we talked about that a little in the last episode. But as I was thinking about this question this morning, I was reminiscing about all the company we've had over the years, all the dinner parties, and especially when we were first married. And I had this one meal that I think I cooked for everybody. And it was these stuffed shells. They were like those giant pasta shells with the ricotta cheese inside. And they weren't even homemade, y'all. They were frozen from Sam's. And I would just put them in a 9x13 dish, pour a jar of spaghetti sauce over them and bake them. And I got more compliments on that meal. Like people wanted the recipe. And I just served it with a kind of an Italian salad and French bread. And I would just put that on repeat. Like we'd have company Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday. And sometimes I would serve the same thing because it was just so easy.
Wow.
And then I remember moving on to like a chicken recipe that was really easy. And I just wore those recipes out. Now, I haven't cooked those in a long time, but I think that would be my advice is like find something that you do really well, like just one or two things. You don't have to do everything well. You don't have to be a gourmet cook, and just like stick with those things. We have a friend that they have us over regularly for homemade pizza in their home.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really think we've ever eaten anything else at their house. Like the husband is the chef and he makes his own dough, makes his own sauce. We get there, we get to help decide what toppings we want, and that's just their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't have to be everything. Just find something you're good at and then do that on repeat.
Right. Oh, I totally agree. And so like you, Julie, I can think back to when Bryce and I were newlyweds and we had young children and the meals that I would do if we were having people over then and then the meals now. So I really only have 3 things to share. So my go-to when the kids were younger was breakfast for dinner. It was always fun for people to come over. And I make really good French toast. And I was like, okay, I will pull out my griddle and I will just make some French toast along with, eggs and bacon and ham and fruit and stuff like that. So that was a fun go-to when we were younger married. And then when we could kind of control Bryce's work schedule, or I knew when he would be home, since I'm not allowed to touch our grill, I love grilling for people. Like that's a go-to because people typically love grilled meat. And then I provide, I'm doing all the sides and dessert.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that is a go-to is Mexican. So I love cooking Mexican and having, instead of the one dish, I'm like, Julie, that's actually very wise. But for some reason, I always gravitate towards you have a bunch of different options so that anybody that comes can decide what they're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the Mexican night, like I would just provide all these different variety of things and you put it however you want to.
Well, like a taco bar, that's really like your meat is your kind of your one dish thing, however you cook the meat, and then you have all your toppings. And,
I know. Yeah, it's super easy because I could do like a taco beef in one crock pot, shredded Mexican chicken in another crock pot beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have all these sides. You can do a burrito, a hard shell. You can make nachos. You can make a salad. There were just so many Mexicans, easy and fun.
And generally well liked.
Yes.
Most people can find something that they like. Julie, you saying when you were newly married and going back to like one dish you wore out, I did that with broccoli cheese soup. Like it had like 6 ingredients. You could make it in the crock pot. And then we also had a bread machine when those were popular. So you could make a loaf of bread in your bread machine and then serve it with the broccoli cheese soup. And I think just about every single one of my friends had that meal at one time or another. My family members, extended family, all had it multiple times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But, I don't think that people necessarily say, well, I'm not going to go over to their house because they always make X. Have you ever said that to yourself?
Well, and it's not like you're eating at their house every week,
Right. But we shouldn't feel bad if we kind of do have a go-to meal. Even today, I like to make one pot or one dish meals, if at all possible. And I know it's not a hard and fast rule, but it just makes my life easier if most things are prepared ahead of time and one pot meals you can do that better with. I wish I could find more one pot summer meals because they do seem to lend themselves more to fall and winter weather.
I was thinking that too because I love to do the Pioneer Woman's recipe for chicken and dumplings and her lasagna, but those are kind of cozy winter meals.
Right.
Yeah. So I can remember we joke, I think when my son-in-law came over, I don't know, I think he had chili probably like the first 10 times. It just so happened that we were having chili.
That's so funny.
It's something that feeds a lot of people and you can, make it easily ahead of time. Like I think chili is my go-to meal.
Oh, nice.
White chicken chili, red chili,
I need your
soup,
recipe.
any of that. And mine's really chili. Easy too.
Okay. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing with the one pot meal is I don't like to be, I've done this a couple times, like you're cooking something that's got to be cooked right then and then served. And you're wondering if it's going to turn out. Gosh, like something didn't go right or this the whole timing issue. I hate that because you can't talk to your guests or I can't,
That's
so
stressful.
it's just nice if it's already done, if the bulk of the meal's already done.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, even if you don't have a go-to meal, are there any ready-made meals that you guys would recommend for company? And Julie, I know that you've mentioned several times your ravioli lasagna that you got from Costco.
Yeah. Their chicken pot pie serves an army. It's huge
Mhm.
and it's really
Mhm.
good. And, adding a salad and something like a dessert with that is great. But here, other than those two things, I kind of wanted to talk about takeout from a restaurant. Like that's what
Oh.
I might do as a prepared meal. And one in particular that we love is Taziki's Family Feast.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we learned about this because when John first got sick, people were bringing us meals, and we got this one a couple of times. And it's chicken kebabs, and you can get beef or lamb,
Mm-hmm.
jasmine rice, lemon roasted potatoes, and this wonderful Mediterranean salad that comes with all these toppings and vegetables, and it feeds a lot of people. I think there's like a family feast maybe feeds 4 or 6, but you
Mhm.
could order multiple. That's probably become a bigger thing since COVID too, because restaurants got good at packaging their food up to take away.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to tell about this really cool experience we just had a few weeks ago with some friends. I did some sewing for her, so I was delivering her curtains to her house, and then we ended up staying for dinner.
Mm.
And they had ordered Vietnamese takeout. Well, I'd never had Vietnamese food, and it was the dish was PHO, which is apparently
Oh.
pronounced pho, which I feel like an idiot
Oh.
saying pho, but that is how you say it.
Okay.
It's not pho, it's pho, and it's kind of like ramen. It was this really rich bone broth.
Mm.
And what they did was they ordered it to go. And when she got home, she put the broth on the stove in a soup pot. And then we boiled, like the meat was filet mignon, like in these thinly shaved strips. So we dropped that in. It only took like a minute to cook. And then rice noodles. And then everybody could, in their own bowl, could add like green onions, basil, sprouts, cilantro. And it was amazing. I mean, it was even better than ramen. And I thought, that would be such a fun wintertime thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're in Nashville, it was Miss Saigon was the restaurant. It was amazing.
Oh, well, that's
Oh, my
cool.
goodness.
Something really different,
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
That's
it wasn't
really
like, I think most people would like it too,
Mhm.
It wasn't
Right.
weird.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's a great idea.
Well, I'm so glad you brought up the takeout, Julie. That's such a great idea. And I haven't really thought about that. So, really, the only time I use a ready made meal is first of all, I'm not like right down the road from a Sam's or Costco.
Mhm.
And so, when we live near one, then I would have done the things that you guys already mentioned. But now, really, the only meals that I will buy ready made things are from Bee's Meat Market here in town. They're a fabulous little family owned store. And they are a meat market, but they have all this variety of sides. So, like for Thanksgiving, I order several sides and desserts from them.
Mm.
And then you just pop them in the oven.
Mhm.
And so anytime I'm going to have a lot of people and it's a big meal that I'm providing, I will buy sides that are ready made so that then I can, kind of handle the rest of the meal.
Mhm.
And I have mentioned this before, but I used to buy the turkey from Honey Baked Ham. I would buy after my turkey experience years and years ago of my turkey not cooking for Thanksgiving that I used to do that. Because that was the most stressful part of the meal was the turkey for Thanksgiving. So really for those bigger meals, I do try to find at least sides, but sometimes even the main meat I'll do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, ready-made meals have come a long way. For our book club, we have about 12 people, and we used to have dinner regularly. And then we were talking about COVID earlier. During COVID, we got out of the habit of having dinner, but I would like to bring dinner back because I feel like eating around a table, there is something that happens when you're talking with people more than if you're all just sitting in a chair next to each other. I don't know. Food just brings that experience brings people together. So I was hosting book club and I wanted to have dinner for everybody. And since I'm the one instigating it again, I feel like I kind of need to provide it. But I was thinking, well, what can I provide for, 11 or 12 people that are going to come that's relatively easy? And I work best under pressure, so I waited till day of to even decide on anything. But I did have someone that had offered to bring a salad, so I knew I had that part covered. So I went down to Costco and I thought, what can I get? And I started walking the aisles, and it's like, yeah, I know you can get your pot pie. I know I could get the different pasta dishes, but I do have some gluten-free people in there, and I don't like people to come and then not have anything for them. So I thought, what could I have that most everybody could have? And I went to their ready-made aisles, and in their refrigerated, they had the ready-made soups. And I got their chicken tortilla soup, but I could have also gotten their tomato basil. I've gotten their corn chowder there before. You can get a great lobster bisque, and they come in tubs, and they're refrigerated. And like the chicken tortilla said, like antibiotic free, and it seemed like healthy. It's not going to stay good as long as a canned soup, but it is going to stay good a couple weeks in your refrigerator. And I ended up bringing those home and dumping them into my crock pot, and it just looked more homemade. And then if you let that heat up the soup, and then I also bought some bread while I was at Costco. Someone else was bringing the salad. In the meantime, someone else offered to bring brownies. So the meal's taken care of.
Perfect.
And I also bought some tortilla chips, and there was sour cream and cheese. So when people were scooping that out and like, oh, this is good and this is really good, I told them, it's just Costco soup, but everybody loved it. That's the thing is I think sometimes it's just the fact that it's not really all the work you put into it. It's just that it's fun to sit around the table and it tastes good, and nobody's judging whether it was a ready-made meal or not. And that could not have been any easier.
Yeah.
It was super easy. And so many people said they liked it, and we're going to go out and also buy it.
Yeah, those soups are good. I've had the tomato basil. I don't think I've had the chicken tortilla, though. I'll have to try that one.
Yeah, and they kind of rotate according to season. So if you can't get one, you maybe can get another one. And it was reasonably priced. I would say 2 tubs was maybe like, I don't know, $12 or something. And maybe it took 3 or 4 for the meal. I think it might have only taken 3, and I had extra. I could have probably gotten away with only using 2. Like it wasn't, sometimes I think we think ready-made means, oh, well, it's going to cost me a lot. But not necessarily.
But it's costly to cook too.
It is. If I was going to buy that chicken and cut it all up and get all the ingredients, that's costly.
Yeah. In lots of ways.
Yes. So I want to just say that to encourage people that you don't necessarily have to be a great cook if you just get a little creative on your thinking. So,
and I like how you said you put it in your own dish. Like, it's not like I do that too. It's not like I'm trying to pass it off. I wouldn't lie and say I made this, but I don't know. It just looks more inviting, and like you did put a little extra effort in there, and most likely they're going to love it. But I don't know, maybe just that first impression, I don't know. That's
No, I think that's totally true. Yeah. So speaking of displaying your meal, putting it in your own dish is one way. What's other ways that you guys like to display a meal when you have guests?
As far as putting things in your own dishes, you can also like glam it up a bit. Like if you were going to do, what is that? Like hummus. You could put some garnishes on it. Like, you could put it in a bowl with a nice spoon and some garnishes instead of just the plastic tub or whatever.
Right.
But I like to serve kind of buffet style. We have this long counter in our kitchen, and I like to just kind of set it all out there. And it's, you can intersperse some candles. You can put flowers up there. I really love setting a table for company, but I don't like to do it fancy or formal. More like kind of festive and fun. And I've used things that were meant to be tablecloths, and I've used things that aren't tablecloths. Like one of my favorites is to use like a throw or a blanket. Like I've used a plaid blanket in the fall. And, on a round table, it's just a square that doesn't even cover the whole table. It's just something to kind of soften it, I love those rattan chargers.
Oh, chargers.
Yeah, and they can be dressy or casual, and they really look good. They look great in the summer. They look great in Christmas with plaid. They look great in the fall. Like that's a good investment because they really will go with just about anything. Yeah. And I love cloth napkins. I've made some recently and I've bought some. And now that my laundry is not a big, arduous task, I don't mind throwing in a few cloth napkins. Like when,
Wow.
yeah, definitely when we have people over, but even just when we're eating a weeknight meal, I'll use a cloth napkin now. Just, makes me feel civilized.
Yeah. Different seasons of life. It's like when you're raising little kids, you think, I am never messing with cloth napkins. Now you've reached a point where they're kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have put cloth napkins on our table just a few times over the past 25 years, just a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And I always end up grabbing like our other napkins to use. We don't even use them. They sit there and look pretty.
Right. Yeah.
So that's funny. Maybe I can up my game now that my laundry is not as bad too. That's so funny, Julie. I love that. But I'm very similar to Julie, and I love how she put this. I always do, like, it's on the kitchen island. The food is displayed. Anytime you can add some sort of height to it, it gets fancier. So like if you have anything that's tiered, and it doesn't even matter what the food is, but the colors of the food, the height of the food, the smell of the food, like all of that is part of the display. And so I used to try to put a bunch of stuff on the table, and I love creating a beautiful table. I really, really do. But I found that a lot of it just gets in the way. Either you can't see your guest that's across from you, which is always awkward, because then you're like, oh, well, let me just move this thing that I just spent 30 minutes making. And so, you don't want to be looking around something, or that they don't have enough room on the table because your display has overflowed. Because I do tend to be a little extra when I get so excited about, the fall leaves and the pumpkins and the stuff. And so, I have gotten simpler with my table. It really needs to be simple, not a lot of stuff. And because people are more comfortable, they need space. And so really just, that's kind of what I do. Also, Julie's idea of the blanket on the table. My mom used to use flat sheets. Sheets were so easy for her to be creative with, because you can buy a seasonal flat sheet at Walmart. They're so cheap. And then it's washable. Like you're not going to mess that thing up. And so even if it's not on the adult table, if you have a kid table, it would cover a card table easy. And so that's kind of a quick little easy idea too, to go along with that.
And that'd be great outdoors too, if you needed something outside.
Yes.
Yeah. One thing I saw that was really cute that I have never tried, but I would love to, was just on, like, if you have a buffet or even on a table, they used brown butcher paper, like as a runner. And then they had written on it, like, start here. And they had a circle where the plates were. And then they labeled what all the dishes were, like what the food was.
Yes.
And then just, it had cute little drawings. And I thought, well, that's you could just have a roll of that paper on hand. And then when you're cleaning up, you just scrunch it all up and
adorable.
Throw it away.
I think the most minimal things that people can have, and probably everyone has it, are candles and fresh flowers. Like you don't have to store a lot. Everybody stores some amount of candles just in case electricity goes out. So it's not like it's wasted storage space. And I just usually tend to default to stuff like that.
It's true. And even if you have something green in your yard, or brown if it's winter, and anything from the yard, we've talked about this, keep it simple, can come inside and be cute.
When you're hosting people, dim light is best.
Right.
Because it covers a multitude of sins. That thing you never got to clean up, those mismatched whatever. So candles always work.
Yes,
definitely.
Stick one in the half bathroom that everyone will use, FYI.
I think one thing not to forget is like background music. I was telling you about our friends that had us over for pizza. Well, they always have like a red check cloth on the table, and then there's always some fun background music while we're making the pizza, and it's usually something like Cafe Italiano. It fits the theme of the night, and I just always associate that with their house, and then I forget to do it at mine.
Yeah. No, that's great. Like if you're good at music, or you have someone good at music, that can be their job.
Well, there's so many playlists. You just plug in Italian cafe music, and you get all these choices.
Listen, It's free too. I mean, Pandora, it's free, and that really creates an ambiance that music makes all the difference to whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Okay, well, is there anything else that you guys recommend for making the presentation more beautiful? I know, Mindy, you told me that you had some tips. I'm curious to know what they are.
I do. I ended up having so much fun with this list. I didn't realize I would have so much fun, but I'll just quickly run through my list if that's okay. Anytime you can repeat colors or patterns, it helps the continuity of whatever you're doing. If you just have some sort of theme, no matter what it is, it could just be red and white plaid, and you just continue the theme in some form or fashion, it's amazing. If you have an orderly display, people kind of know where to go. That is super helpful. Bryce is really good at just strategically placing things, how people come in, how they move. And he always says, the drink station should go over there. The food should go over here. Because you don't want to end up, everybody's in between your island and refrigerator stuffed trying to get to the same things or whatever. So I say just think about order and think about, the theme. I already talked about the height of the dishes. Music, we already talked about that. Smell, we talked about candles. That really helps create it. Marie, you talked about lighting. Fun drinks and fun cups. People love a drink bar. And so, no matter what the season, you can add in a fun drink. And even if it's water in a glass pitcher, and in the winter you put cranberries in it, in the summer you slice up lemons. I mean, it's beautiful. So anything, like, it's water.
Right.
And so I just think that those display items just really help create, it gives you the small details that are easy, to kind of take it to the next level. The last thing that is 100% key, is my dinner party going to be a success or not, is your attitude. Your attitude plays the biggest part in whatever you do. You can do nothing and open your door last minute, not have a plan, and have a great attitude. And my goal is for that person to leave my house happy and feeling loved and served and welcomed. And so they don't care about your mess. They don't care if the food is, not perfect. You care more about that than they do. And so really, if you're having fun and you're, enjoying the guests, they're going to have a great time and be thankful that they were in your home.
Right.
That's right.
And I'm glad you said that, Mindy, because there are some people that when they even start hearing small tips like put cranberries in the water and slice up lemons, they're like, too much work.
Yeah.
They're
tap out.
already saying like to themselves, this is why I don't have people over, because I can't just be my normal self. I have to act like I, have a drink bar.
Airs.
Whatever, you know what I'm saying? And some people that really, they enjoy that. But if you are someone listening and you're like, my mind has already turned off because I want to just, go over my refrigerator and give you some ice with some water in it. That is fine too. Like these presentation tips are for the people that enjoy that. But your attitude and welcoming people in is what people really want and remember. So I think that's a great way to end that part, Mindy.
Yeah, that's
really
true. That is more for your enjoyment when you do those things. It's not as much for your guests, because your guests are still going to get something to drink. You know,
I'll say, that whole thing stressed me out during years of my life. Years, I couldn't have done that. I love to do that kind of stuff. And sometimes I can do it and sometimes I can't. So if it's stressing you out, do not do it. Because again, that goes back to your attitude and how you feel. And they're going to know if you're stressed.
Yeah, I second the idea about the drink bar, Mindy, because Michael and Smith, the nester who I've talked about before, she said she will do like a pre-made meal, but put the emphasis on her drink bar. She's done like sherbets in fizzy flavored waters, and that's just really fun. Like she has all the sherbet scooped up, and then you just drop it in your fizzy water, or a coffee bar with creamers, or even a hot chocolate bar with marshmallows and chocolate shavings, and and that people always say they remember her drink stations.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And that's a talent of hers,
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. Well, for the person that is listening and is still thinking, well, that's all fine and good, but I don't feel confident in my cooking skills or even maybe my presentation skills, what types of gatherings do you recommend for those people? I always say my first recommendation is have a potluck. Like, don't feel like you need to be the one to cook everything. You could even say, I'll provide drinks and paper plates and paper service, and then have a sign up for the rest. Like, a lot of times people are just looking for somewhere to have the meal, and most people are more than willing to bring things.
Right.
And
and you're right. The thing they don't want to do is host it. So they're eager to bring something to your house.
Yes.
Right.
We used to have a lot of fun, like, especially when you have a lot of kids, that can definitely hinder being invited places or inviting other families in. But I mean, even if you're like, hey, let's order pizza together. I mean, we have done, like, we get to their house or they come to our house, we order pizza and have a game night. Like, nobody is worried about the food.
Right.
And that was super easy. It's like, you just want to be together.
Right. I was thinking about other things that you could do. You could just have people over for dessert. You don't have to feel like you have to make everything, or you could just have people over for appetizers, or you can do theme ideas. Like, I've done this before with people I didn't really know that well, but I would like to know them a little bit better. I hosted a cookie exchange at Christmas time. Yes. Well, you don't have to serve a lot of food or make a big meal because you're going to be sampling the cookies. And yes, you've made some cookies, but so has everybody else. And then everybody goes home with cookies. Like, you can do more of a theme type thing, or you could have everybody bring, not everybody, but you could have a few people bring their favorite chilies and then, just serve bread. You don't even have to have salad. Just serve the Fritos and sour cream.
Who eats a salad anyway?
Yeah, you don't need to make it super fancy. That was one of the things, we talked about last week that I really liked, Julie, that you brought up, that like younger generations, they don't even need to have all the dishes. And I feel more free hearing you say that. Like, I don't want to have the starch, the vegetable, the this, the that. Like, that to me is so much work. Like, if I'm having people over and you don't get your vegetables that night, you could have eaten them at lunch. Like, it's not my responsibility to make sure that I've served all 4 food groups.
Yeah, you're not their dietitian.
Yes. And I think we've gotten in the habit of feeling like we need to provide a little of everything.
Right.
And that's just too much pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
I will say I saw the cutest idea, and I haven't done this, but I want to. But it's just a fun dinner party idea. And it's since charcuterie is kind of like a popular word right now and theme, is everybody brought their own type of charcuterie to a party. And like, one person had like a Little Debbie charcuterie board. I mean,
that's cute.
Put all the Little Debbie stuff on there and just displayed it, but it was anything you wanted. And so it was amazing, the different ideas that I saw coming through, like, to this party. I was like, that is so clever, because you can literally put anything together that you want.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
That's
I love
neat.
that idea, Mindy.
Yeah.
That sounds so fun. It really does.
If you're overwhelmed about having people in your home, one way to start is to have an outdoor meal, like a cookout, and everybody just is outside on your patio, if that feels less intimidating, because it's just going to be more casual. You can do paper plates, you can drink right out of the can. You don't have to worry about all that. So that's a good way to start. One thing that we like to do is invite people to sit around a fire pit. You could roast hot dogs and s'mores, or a pot of chili, or you could have it after dinner and just do the s'mores. Like, it doesn't have to be a full meal every time.
Right.
One thing, you could do something that you already love to do, just be more intentional about it. Like, if you like to play cards, we'll have people over to do that and serve a dessert. Or I've heard of one friend doing this. They have a TV night where friends who are following the same TV show come and they all watch it together. And you could just serve a snack around that. I've done like an afternoon tea or an afternoon coffee. Like, we tend to want to go out for coffee, but you could just have a couple of ladies over to your house and have cake and tea,
Right.
You can start small, and it doesn't always have to involve cooking.
Right.
And we've talked a lot about how it doesn't have to be all you, but I think some people feel uncomfortable taking other people up on their offer to bring something. So I just wanted to touch on this a little bit. Like, what do you guys say when someone offers to bring something?
I usually say yes, like especially
I say
if
sure.
I already have kind of the main thing planned, like I know what I want to have. But if they're drinks, salad, or sides or dessert, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. So listeners, 3 out of 3 people say sure. Like, you don't need to feel bad about accepting that. I think some people don't want to. They still think they have to do it all. And that's fine if you truly do want to. But if doing it all is preventing you from opening up your home, do not feel bad about taking other people up on their offer. You don't even have to wait for them to offer. You could say, hey, I want to get together. We'll provide the hamburgers. Do you want to bring a salad? Or do you want to bring salad or dessert? Like, you don't even have to wait for an offer. You could just say, do you want to do this or that?
Yeah. Right. Or like when you said, is it hindering you from having people over? It also could be making you cranky when you have people over. Like you were saying, you need to have the right attitude. Well, sometimes if you've killed yourself doing all that, you're just exhausted by the time. I've done that before. You're just too tired when people get there and you're spent.
Yes.
So take it from us. Always say yes. You'll be glad you did.
That's your hostess gift. No.
Right. Yes, because I did include this question, what are some thoughtful hostess gifts? Just because if you are on the receiving end of an invitation and you aren't bringing a dish to share, a lot of times we think, well, what should I bring? And my mind immediately goes blank. I know a bottle of wine is something that people go to, but what are some other things? I think bottles of wine and candles are what people go to, but I wanted to know if you guys had any other creative things.
Well, my go-to is to cut something from my yard and bring it, like in a mason jar or something. Like I think that's important, is to bring it in something so your host doesn't have to stop what they're doing and find water and a vase. So just something they can, set on their table or in the house. And I was trying to think of unique things, like any treat from Trader Joe's would be great. Like, they have great chocolates, rich hot chocolates that maybe you wouldn't buy for yourself, like something that's a treat. Like some kind of special tea or special coffee beans, if they like that. Pretty paper napkins, a nice bottle of olive oil. Like if they're a cook and they're having parties, they're probably going to need those kind of things.
Right. No, those are great ideas. And I like the fact that they are all consumable. So, someone's going to use those up.
Right. Yeah. We received some really cool stuff. And I also try to do this as well because I love it so much. But especially if there's a local store that supports local vendors, to be able to give something that's been handmade by a local artist or chef or whatever. There are tea towels that somebody locally had made. Or designed or whatever. So we've received some of those. Somebody brought us local whiskey one time. Like we still haven't opened the bottle, but it was super cool that they did that. Local honey, like anything that's like from your area and that's kind of a unique local vendor type thing, I think is always fun to do.
Right. I think I'll probably fall back on Julie's suggestion. I need to just have some Trader Joe's items in the cupboard that are good, because I can never, I usually don't even think of hostess gift till I'm pulling up. But that would be something for me to more get in the habit of doing.
Another thing I always have on hand is hand soaps, because I love soaps. So I've got a stockpile. So that's an easy gift. And I think everybody can use either a bottle or bar of fancy soap.
Right.
One thing I just read about, and I thought I didn't understand what they meant when I read it. And I thought, this is a pretty clever idea. It said to bring them dinner in a jar. And I was like, what are they talking about? And they just put in, like in a big mason jar, quart mason jar, a soup or a stew or a pasta dish. And it was for the hostess for the next night, so they wouldn't have to cook dinner. Like, especially if they'd had a big party.
Yeah.
That's such a clever idea.
That is.
Yes.
Do they sell those pre-made?
For real. Yeah. Let me know when Costco or Sam's gets that.
Okay. Well, let's talk about some hospitality myths or hindrances, because I think a lot of times we think we have to have certain things or we have to do things a certain way, and that's not necessarily the case. So what are some myths that you guys either used to believe or you've heard of other people saying that you don't really think are true?
I mean, we've already kind of dispelled the myth that you don't have to cook all day. There's
Right.
ways around that. You don't have to clean all day. You can fake a clean house.
Right.
You vacuum with Carpet Fresh, and that
Mhm.
smells up the whole house. It smells very fresh. And you clean the bathroom and the pathway between, the entry and your kitchen and bathroom. And you just clear off the clutter. Like, even if you don't have time to deal with it then, clear off everything off your surfaces. Even if you have to put it in another room, that's fine. Like, you don't have to deal with.
Throw it in a big Amazon box from your garage.
And deal with it later. Because I know that can happen. Like, you'll start cleaning, and then that leads to, I need a file. And you find out,
right.
you're filing before your guests come over. Like, no, that does not need to happen, because that puts a big damper on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, your guest is not going to see your whole house either. So you don't have to have the whole house clean. I used to feel that way. And I'm like, no, they're not going in my kids' rooms. And if they do, then they asked for it.
At their own risk.
I think one of the myths is that you have to have a dining room table for 12 with matching seating and a table set that's fancy. And I've heard so many people say, well, we're going to have people over when we finish the dining room. And then 5 years later, they still don't have a table and they haven't had anyone over. Like, you don't need to have a table that's long enough. Like, you could put 2 card tables together. You could have 1 card table. You could sit around a coffee table. Like, you don't even need to sit around a table. I've eaten plenty of meals where we just sat in chairs and enjoyed each other's company. Like, don't let the furniture be a hindrance.
Yeah.
Right.
Another one is you don't have to have a big house. I love this advice. Love the house you're with. Because we probably did our most entertaining in our first apartment.
Yes.
It was a tiny 2-bedroom with a tiny little kitchen. And we did have a round table in the dining area, but we probably mostly ate on the couch in front of the television, watch something. So you don't have to have a big space.
Right. We've already talked about the myth of everything has to be homemade. It doesn't. Or having matching dishes. You mentioned that, Marie. And so I don't even now have a full setting of one type of dish. I have white dishes because they go with every season. And I have 2 different patterns. One has a scalloped edge and one is a straight edge. So I just alternate the white dishes. But I mean,
right.
So not everybody's going to have the same dish, but I mean, that's how we roll.
Yeah.
I'll say a couple of hindrances that I thought about in this category was introverts. Introverts really struggle with opening their home sometime because they've been peopled out all day. It's really, really tiring and exhausting to think of then being social again at night. So if there's a way to, even for the introvert, to schedule or have a time that's maybe in the middle of the day, sometimes that works better to change up. It doesn't have to be dinner, but maybe it's on the weekend or after church in the afternoon, because sometimes you need to recover after being with people. So I even thought about that. But another major hindrance, this is so funny, but you guys will understand, kids. Having kids can be a major hindrance. And I say this.
I've forgotten that.
Because this was a major hindrance of mine when the children were little. I could never guarantee when my husband would be home. And I would not invite people over for fear that he wouldn't be home. The kids wouldn't leave the house clean. I couldn't do the meal and the house. Like, I needed his help to keep the kids out of the kitchen so I can finish this. And it didn't matter how simple it was. It's like they were always like, they'd mess up the half bath right before people would walk through the door. But anyways, or their bedtime schedule, or their mess, or whatever. I mean, I just think that sometimes there are seasons that are just really tough. And so getting creative to still see people because you still need friend time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, kids can really, really be a hindrance.
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading out of this article that said, did millennials kill the dinner party? And I don't think that millennials killed the dinner party, but
Right.
I liked what they were saying about how younger generations view it. And we could all learn a lesson. They were saying cooking for people is really a kind gesture, and it speaks volumes about your priorities and what you care about and how you want to spend your time. And it doesn't have to be a thing that causes you anxiety or stress. It should promote well-being, love, joy, and a state of relaxation. It shouldn't make you feel inadequate worrying about, is my house nice enough? Do I have matching silverware? Am I going to mess up this recipe? You're doing a nice thing for people, and they're coming over and feeding them, and that's enough. And I think that we just have to get out of this. I think Pinterest has done a disservice to hospitality in the end because it's made everything so much pressure. And I think less people probably entertain because they feel like they're going to be judged. So I don't know. And then another part of the article, they said, mistakes happen and that's okay. I've had people over where I've burnt something so badly that I had to order pizza. And I've invited more people over than I could feed. And then we had to basically eat like garlic bread for dinner, which is delicious. You just got to make do with what you have and have a really good time doing it, which comes into your attitude, Mindy. Like, honestly, if all you end up being able to serve them is pizza or garlic bread, they're not going to remember it. They're going to remember the fun conversations and the time that you had together.
Yes.
Right.
And let me put a plug in for our podcast meet and greet that is coming up. This is a real life example of what we're talking about right now. And when it came down to knowing what to do, I wanted to open my home. Marie and Julie are coming to visit, and you'll see us advertising this and hear us talking about it. And while we're all three together, I wanted to offer up my home to have a meet and greet.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea who's going to come, but I had to kind of take my variables. I was like, okay, well, it's going to stress me out if the boys are home from school and Bryce is home from work. So it needs to be during a time where they're all gone. So I was like, okay, well, that gives me my time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped me pick the time. And then the other thing that I was like, well, I don't really know how many people will come. And typically when you have a bunch of women getting together, I don't see a lot of women eating. That's where I was like, I think we're just going to have drinks. And I think we're going to make it a fun drink station. And I'm going to get Julie and Marie to help me put together. But see, this is kind of how I thought about it. So then I'm actually not stressed at all. I have no idea who of you out there will come to my home. I cannot wait to have them here with me. And I can't wait to have listeners come into my home. But I've really, if my house is, somewhat clean where you're going to see it, and I have a drink station and I give you a time and the address, I just think that is, I'm comfortable with that and I'm not stressed about it.
Right. And you really could be stressed about this.
Yeah. Yes. Somebody I think commented and said, Mindy, wow, you're really brave. And I was like, well, no, Julie's here. She's making anything look good.
You're too kind.
Like, no. Julie's going to be here.
Well, I like how you said one decision kind of took care of a lot of others. Like you just made the decision on the time. So there's no need stressing about that. You've already decided this is when we're going to have it. And then that determines if you need food or you don't, or if,
Right.
Yeah. So making those big decisions and then forgetting them.
Right.
Don't think about them.
Yeah, it's like putting the big rocks in your day first and adding the little pebbles. And so that's kind of how we came to our time. So I am sorry if it doesn't work for someone out there, but for me to open my home, that was what I could do.
Right. No, I think that's great, Mindy. And I loved the fact that you just said, I mean, it is so true. I don't know how many times we make food for something and it's a group of women and you have so much left over because they don't eat it. So, let's just all admit that unless you're having some men over, you probably don't need that much food.
I know. And so I'm like, well, we all love to have a drink in our hand, something fun. And and we're going to be talking. So it's hard to talk and eat, right?
Right.
But you can drink and eat.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah. You can drink and talk. That's what I meant to say.
Yes. No, I love that. I really love that.
Well, I've got another hindrance it's kind of funny when I say this because I don't think it applies to any of us, but I know people that it does. What if you have a reluctant spouse? Which I'm probably the more reluctant spouse in our.
I was going to say, you definitely don't have a reluctant spouse, Julie.
But I know plenty of couples where the husband isn't as keen on having people over. And I know this one particular friend kind of worked around that and would just maybe have people over during the day or for lunch or, like there's ways that you could still host and it not be couples or not be at night.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Maybe take a page from Mindy's book and just say, well, when can I do it? And these are the times that I'm able.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, I don't know what you'd do. I don't have a spouse that's reluctant to host, and so I don't really know what that's like. But listeners, if you guys have any tips on that or ways that you've dealt with that, we would love to hear.
Or how you've encouraged a spouse to get more open to that. Yeah.
Right.
I did read something on hospitality. This kind of goes along with that. And it was saying that like in the mid to late 70s, the average American was hosting people in their home like 14 to 15 times a year. And that was when I was growing up and watching my mom do a great job at this. And then by the late 90s, that had fallen to 8 times a year. And, if that trend continues, hospitality might just be lost.
That's sad, Julie.
And I just think it's great that we probably all got to watch our moms do this well. And our kids are or were watching us. And it's just been kind of fun to see that come full circle in my daughter's life. Like she loves hosting things. It looks different than probably the way we did it, but she has people in her home at book club and, lunch and teas and things like that. And it's encouraging to see that she's picked up that. that baton.
I would say that's one of the biggest things I learned from my parents is they were always willing to host, and they still are. My mother had a birthday party for all the women in a certain quarter that have a birthday party in her house just last week for 30 women. She had tables of 10 in 3 different rooms. She loved doing it. She has been a lifelong, and my dad too, they lifelong love to host people. And so even if you're not hosting for yourself, maybe you can host so the next generation still knows how to do it sometimes, Yeah. Because they are watching.
It could become a lost art.
Right. All right. Well, I'm inspired and hopefully I will host more this fall. Maybe we should, just like maybe sometimes people keep track of like how many books they've read in a year. Maybe we should kind of keep track of how many times we're hosting in a year. It might be less or more than we think. We don't know.
You could even set goals. Like our goal is to have somebody over once a month or once every quarter.
Right.
Or, you could just set loose goals like that and see if you can do it.
Yeah. Listeners, if you have any tips for how to increase hospitality in your home, find us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast or email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. But before we go, I want to do I'm a Fan. All right, Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
This week, to go along with our theme, a really cheap, easy way to kind of update your table or to go with a theme is Hobby Lobby has really cheap chargers. Chargers are that bigger piece that goes underneath the dinner plate. And they're like $1.99, and you can find them even cheaper, but they have different colors. They have different styles. And so if you're near a Hobby Lobby and you want to kind of like spruce up your table, chargers is a really great way to add a little pop of color or at least dimension to your table. And it doesn't take up a lot of space. No. And so I love being able to go there and update kind of, whatever my theme is.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Hobby Lobby, I forget about how easy it would be to get some seasonal items there and put them on the table. That would be really good. Yep. Julie, what are you a fan of this week?
I'm a fan of a Travel Mini perfume sprayer.
Oh.
And like Mindy, I love my perfume. I wear it every single day. except when I travel. I don't usually bring it on an airplane because I don't want to check it, or I don't, it's too big to carry on. And even if I travel in the car, it's just too much to bring.
Mm-hmm.
So I found, I actually saw it on someone's Instagram on their little Amazon page, and there are these little sprayers. You take the little spray nozzle off of your perfume, stick this on it, this little, and you pump it and it just shoots the perfume up into this little sprayer.
Wow.
So you have, so now I just keep it in my purse and I can wear it anytime. They come, I think you can get 3 for $5.99. You can get more, but I thought they might make cute stocking stuffers
for
too.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's really good. All right, I'm a fan this week of something that I think you could serve to company. I've been to Trader Joe's like side dishes, and so I bought their rice orzo pilaf mix in the box, and I made that. It's basically, it has the rice, the seasoning, you put it with water, but it was really good. I think, you could serve it alongside chicken. You could put other vegetables in it. I mean, it's just versatile. It made a lot. So I think that going to Trader Joe's to check out some of their side dishes, this is something you could keep easily in your pantry. It's not going to go bad. And when you're having people at last minute, Mindy, if you had the meat to grill, you could just do this on the side and serve it.
Love it. Oh, yum.
Yeah. So anything easy. Now I've got the Trader Joe's risotto in the box and the Trader Joe's rice pilaf. So those are both something that I feel like I could serve to company. And it wouldn't stress me out to make it.
Yeah. And you're not breaking the bank.
No.
That doesn't cost a lot.
No, it doesn't. Awesome. It doesn't. All right, you guys. Well, I know that I'm inspired, and I hope that listeners are too. We definitely don't claim to be experts. If anything, we hope that we have helped make hospitality more attainable for you today.
Yes.
Maybe that should be the title of this episode, Attainable Hospitality.
Yes, definitely.
And whatever season you're in, because, there are times for everything.
And it's funny, but I bet if we all were looking back, well, I know, Julie, you would say this, like the most fun times that we felt hospitable was when we didn't own anything.
Right.
And we weren't great cooks. And that's when we felt like we were the most hospitable and had the most fun with it. So let's everybody lighten up a little bit and just take the pressure down a notch.
That's right.
I would love talking with you guys, and we'll talk with you next week.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Bye.
Bye. Listeners, we want to invite you to our upcoming meet and greet event. If you are in or near LaGrange, Georgia, we would love for you to join us. This fun morning will take place on September 27th from 9 to 11 a.m. For more details, please message us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast or drop us an email at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. Hope to see you there.